Jay Prince just lost it after Finesse2Tymes signed a new contract with NBA YoungBoy. What started as a simple request quickly turned into a battle over contracts, loyalty, and control. Now, with tensions rising and questions piling up, fans want to know what really happened behind the scenes and why this move sparked such a strong reaction from the Prince family. The phone call that shook Houston. Finesse2Tymes sat down on Boss Talk TV and said something that most people in the rap game would never say out loud. He gave NBA YoungBoy his flowers, live on camera. No script, no PR rollout. Just a Memphis rapper telling the world that the same artist he was beefing with 2 years ago had quietly reached out to try and pull him out of a hole. That NBA YoungBoy actually called the Prince family and asked them directly, what would it take to help that man get out of his contract? That was the bomb that went off across hip-hop social media in late May of 2026. Not a diss track, not a subliminal, a confession. Finesse said NBA YoungBoy went over his head, called the Prince family, the same Prince family that runs Mob Ties Entertainment in Houston, and asked what it would take to set him free. I respect it. I respect it, homie. I just cannot keep saying nobody is supporting me because you did. Take a second to sit with that. For months, Finesse had been crying out on live after live, asking Jay Prince Jr. to let him go, asking somebody, anybody, to throw him a rope. And while rappers and talkers were running their mouths on the timeline pretending to care, only one man actually picked up a phone. And that man was NBA YoungBoy, the same NBA YoungBoy who had beef with Finesse back in 2024. The same NBA YoungBoy who posted a racy photo of Finesse's child's mother on his Instagram story. The same NBA YoungBoy who was going off in rants calling Finesse out his name. That same man reached out behind the scenes to help his former enemy. Finesse could not hide how he felt about it. You could hear it in his voice. The man was almost in disbelief that help came from a place he never expected. You actually reached out and tried to make that happen. So I gotta take my hat off today and give you your flowers. The internet caught fire within hours. Clips bounced from Instagram to TikTok to Facebook to X. Traps and Trunks posted the breakdown. Say Cheese ran the clip. Comment sections were on fire. Everybody had a take. Some people were saying YoungBoy just earned Man of the Year in rap. Others were saying Finesse only said this because he wanted someone to come save him. And a third group was already wondering what Jay Prince was going to say back. Because if you know anything about Houston rap, you know one thing for a fact. Jay Prince does not play. The man built Rap-A-Lot Records from the ground up. He has been in this game longer than half the rappers in the streets right now have been alive. He has mentored legends. He has put fear in radio stations. He has settled beefs across coasts. And now NBA YoungBoy, somebody from Baton Rouge with his own label problems on his record, was calling Houston asking the Prince family to release one of their artists. You already know how that conversation was going to go. But before we get to the wall Jay Prince built around this contract, you need to understand what Finesse was running from in the first place. Because this story is not just about a phone call. It is about a man who feels like he signed his life away and is now trying every door he can find to get out. Finesse was on Boss Talk TV, but he had been telling this story for months across every live he could log into. The man was tired, frustrated. He had been bleeding out on the internet trying to get free from Mob Ties Entertainment for almost a year. And the call from NBA YoungBoy was just one chapter in a much bigger book. How Finesse got stuck in the first place. That to understand why YoungBoy's phone call hit so different, you have to understand what kind of cage Finesse2Tymes was sitting in. The man, whose real name is Ricky T. Greer, came home from federal prison looking for a fresh start. He had buzz. He had Memphis behind him. He had hits already moving in the streets. And he had one of the most legendary figures in Southern rap looking at him like a son. That was Jay Prince, the original. The man with the white beard, the soft voice, and the iron grip on Houston. Jay Prince and his son Jay Prince Jr. brought Finesse into Mob Ties Entertainment. They gave him advances. They gave him jewelry. They flew him private. They took care of his family while he was behind bars. From the outside, it looked like a fairy tale. A rapper does his time, the legend signs him up, and the streets get a new king. $150,000. He treated it like a joke at first. Then he caught himself, deleted the joke, and came back swinging with Memphis pride. He posted a message telling NBA YoungBoy that he must have forgotten where he was from. He talked about loyalty. He talked about street codes. He made it clear he was from Memphis and they were not tender out there. NBA YoungBoy did not let it slide. He came back even harder. He accused Finesse of sounding soft. He said Finesse had been sliding into his wife's messages like he forgot who he was talking to. He dismissed the mental health talk Finesse had been doing publicly. He made it clear that the DM incident from September 2023 had been eating at him for months, and now it was time to settle it on the internet. For a few days, the timeline was on fire. Finesse was firing back at YoungBoy fans in his comments. YoungBoy was posting story after story. Fan bases were going at each other. People were picking sides like it was a championship boxing match. Some folks were ride or die for YB. Some were Memphis till they die. And a whole lot of people watching were saying this was just unnecessary industry mess between two rappers who had bigger problems than each other. The funny thing is no diss track ever dropped. No studio response. No answer record. It was all Instagram stories, deleted posts, and rant videos. The whole thing burned hot for a few days in mid-April of 2024, then cooled off just as fast as it heated up. Both men moved on. YoungBoy went back to his own world. Finesse went back to his mob ties drama. The beef became one of those moments that lived in screenshots and YouTube recap videos. But here's where it gets interesting. According to clips floating around, NBA YoungBoy was reportedly still bothered by the whole thing even after the smoke cleared. The tension was still there under the surface, which is exactly why what happened next was so wild. Because most rappers would never lift a finger for the man who got at their baby mama. Most rappers would have laughed when they saw Finesse on live crying about his contract. Most rappers would have screenshotted it and made a meme. But NBA YoungBoy did something nobody saw coming. He picked up a phone and called Houston. Finesse said it on Boss Talk TV with his own mouth. YoungBoy reached out to the Prince family before any of the new drama that followed. Before any of the behind-the-scenes chapters got written. While the public was still expecting bad blood, YoungBoy was the one trying to break the chain. The man who was supposed to be the enemy turned into the only one with the courage to make the call. That is the part that broke the internet. Because in a culture where everybody loves to talk about loyalty and unity, here was an old enemy showing more of it than any current friend. Finesse himself acknowledged it. He said he could not keep claiming nobody was helping him because somebody did. And that somebody was the last person anybody expected. But every rescue mission needs the other side to open the door. And the door in this story was being held shut by one of the most stubborn, most respected, and most powerful men in the history of Southern hip-hop. A man who heard the offer and did not even flinch. The wall J. Prince built and refused to move. When word got back to Houston that NBA YoungBoy had reached out asking what it would take to buy Finesse out of his contract, J. Prince did not blink. He did not negotiate. He did not even pretend to entertain the idea. He shut the door so hard the whole industry felt the slam. And then he made sure everybody understood why. The message from the Prince camp was simple. No amount of money YoungBoy could put on the table was going to open that door. Not $1 million. Not $5 million. Not $10 million. Not whatever number he was willing to write a check for. The reason had nothing to do with the dollar amount. The reason had everything to do with principle. J. Prince has always been the kind of man who treats contracts like blood oaths. In his world, when you sign your name on a piece of paper, you do not get to come back later and ask for a do-over because somebody bigger came along. You honor what you put your hand to. You stand on what you agreed to. You do not get to use the excuse of a better offer to wiggle out of a deal you walked into willingly. And that is exactly the position J. Prince and the older heads in the industry took when Finesse went public. On the same Boss Talk TV episode where Finesse first revealed the YoungBoy phone call, an older voice called in. They called him OG. And OG made the case for the label side without any sugar on top. Office hours are from 9 to 5. And you know why Big Red said that? Because that contract, like everything else, is business. But Finesse said the truth about what he signed did not start to hit him until years later. He went on a live session and, for the first time, sat down and dropped his Mob Ties contract into ChatGPT to see what he had actually agreed to. He said he had never used the program before in his life. He read every clause out loud, and the breakdown that came back was uglier than he ever expected. Me and Suge finally found my Mob Ties contract and got a lawyer to look over it. But a lot of lawyers, they do not really want anything to do with it. Right there is your first red flag. Finesse said lawyers were ducking the contract. Multiple attorneys reportedly looked at the paperwork and either passed on the case or hedged their advice. So Finesse and his team went a different route. They put the document into the machine and let the machine talk back. and the machine said what nobody around him wanted to say out loud. The contract Finesse was sitting on was a 360 deal. That means the label gets a piece of everything. The music, the publishing, the merchandise, the touring, the brand deals, the name, the likeness. Everything with Finesse's face or voice on it has a pipe running back to the label. And the machine told him that the advances, the jewelry, the trucks, the private planes, none of that was a gift. It was all loans against future earnings. Then it got worse. Assignment clause. Another trap. Transfer the contract to another label or company at any time. That clause meant Mob Ties could pass his deal off to any other label whenever they wanted. So even if Finesse waited it out and prayed for the day Mob Ties got tired of him, they could hand his paperwork to somebody else, and he would still be locked up. The cage moved with him. But the part that hit the hardest was when Finesse admitted what Jay Prince told him before he ever signed. Jay Prince, the old man, told me not to get a lawyer. He told me we are not going that route. That is the line the whole internet circled. Jay Prince, the founder of Rap-A-Lot, a man who has been in the music business for over 30 years, allegedly told a man coming home from federal prison not to bring a lawyer to the table. According to Finesse, the message was that real ones do not need lawyers. That lawyers mess people over. That they were going to do this on a handshake and respect. And Finesse, fresh off years behind bars and looking at Jay Prince as a hero, took that advice and signed. That decision haunts him to this day. Finesse went on record calling it a bad deal. He said the re-recording clauses were stacked against him. He said the assignment clause was a trap. And he said the worst part was that he could not even drop his own music on Apple Music or Spotify the way he wanted to. I cannot, bro. I cannot. Why you think I keep saying it is the labels? For years on Mob Ties. 2 projects. That is the math Finesse keeps coming back to. He said the label was not clearing his music. He said Atlantic, the major that Mob Ties is plugged into, was not checking for him either. No money spent on rollouts. No real push. No machine behind him. The man felt invisible while still being owned. And the worst feeling, he said, was that he had the buzz. He had shows lined up. He had fans waiting. He had songs in the vault. But he could not move freely. So he started telling the world the only way he knew how. Live after live. Rant after rant. Tear after tear. Which brings us to the moment the whole timeline changed. Because while Finesse was crying out, somebody from Baton Rouge was listening. The beef that was supposed to make this impossible. To really feel why NBA YoungBoy's phone call hit the way it did, you need to remember what was happening between these two men just 2 years before. Because the young boy who reached out to the Prince family was not supposed to lift a finger for Finesse2Tymes. They were not friends. They were not collaborators. They were not even on speaking terms. They were enemies. Loud, public, social media enemies. And the beef they had was not about music or money or industry power. It was about something much messier. It was about women. The whole thing kicked off behind the scenes in September of 2023. According to Finesse himself, he had slid into the DMs of one of NBA YoungBoy's baby mamas. The woman eventually told YoungBoy what had happened. And YoungBoy, being who he is, did not let that information die quietly. He held on to it. He sat on it. He kept it in his back pocket and waited. The dam broke on April 10th of 2024. NBA YoungBoy posted a racy photo of one of Finesse2Tymes' children's mothers on his Instagram story. The woman in question was F&G Suga, also known as Vanessa. He also reportedly posted suggestive content tied to another woman in Finesse's circle. The shot was direct. The shot was personal. The shot was meant to embarrass. Finesse fired back the only way he knew how. First, he trolled. He said YoungBoy could FaceTime Suga for 2. He was quoting the movie The Players Club. The line was about treating business like business and not letting feelings cloud what was agreed to in writing. He went further. He said when Finesse signed that contract, he was probably smiling from ear to ear. He said the advance money felt like a blessing in the moment. And he said the only reason the contract feels bad now is because Finesse thinks he can do better somewhere else. I bet you when he signed that contract and got that advance money, he was smiling from ear to ear, nose to nose. That is the heart of the Jay Prince position. Nobody put a gun to Finesse's head. Nobody forced him to sign. Nobody dragged him into the building. The man walked in on his own 2 feet, took the advance, took the jewelry, took the support for his family while he was locked up, and signed. And now that the buzz has grown and the offers look bigger somewhere else, the contract suddenly feels like a trap. From Jay Prince's chair, that is not the contract being unfair. That is an artist forgetting what he agreed to when the money first hit. Now Finesse has his counter. He has said multiple times that he was not properly educated when he signed. He said he was told not to bring a lawyer. He said he trusted Jay Prince like family and signed on faith. And he said when he finally got somebody to look at it, the deal was one of the most one-sided contracts they had ever seen. But Jay Prince's position does not bend on that. The contract is the contract. And it is not just Jay Prince Sr. holding the line. Jay Prince Jr., the man who actually runs Mob Ties day to day, has been firing his own shots at Finesse for months. When Finesse accused him of getting his Houston show canceled over Memorial Day weekend, Jr. did not hold back. The show had Lil Baby on the same bill. Finesse said he was supposed to be there too. He said he got a call telling him he was no longer needed. And he saw videos online of Jay Prince Jr. kicking it with Lil Baby at the very same show he was cut from. They canceled my show. Hey Jr. Y'all already bamboozled me out of my contract. At least let these folks book me. Jay Prince Jr.'s response was cold. He went on his own platform and said Finesse has to blame him for everything going wrong in his life. He said he had found peace with it. He asked the question of how he could possibly influence a promoter not to book his own artist. He said it did not even make sense. And then he twisted the knife by saying Finesse was a full-time content creator and streamer now anyway. So the man had left the music business by his own choice. The whole picture from the Prince family side is consistent. They invested in Finesse when he was at his lowest. They sent money to his family while he was locked up. They signed him when nobody else was looking. They gave him advances, jewelry, jets, and a name to stand on. And now that he has grown, they are not just going to hand him back his freedom because somebody from Baton Rouge waved a check around. That is not how Houston does business. That is not how Rap-A-Lot does business. And that is not how Jay Prince has done business for over 30 years. So when NBA YoungBoy made that call, he ran straight into a wall built by a man who has been building walls since before YoungBoy was born. What actually happened and what comes next? Here is where we have to be honest with each other. After all the lies, all the rants, all the tears, all the phone calls, and all the shots back and forth, the truth of where this situation actually stands is much smaller than the headline might make it sound. Finesse2Tymes has not officially signed with NBA YoungBoy. There is no announcement. There is no joint album. There is no press release. There is no statement from any record label confirming a new home for Finesse. What there is a phone call, a respect moment, a refusal from Jay Prince, and a lot of public hope. That is it. That is the whole thing. What Finesse said on Boss Talk TV was that YoungBoy reached out to the Prince family and asked what it would take to help him get out of his contract. Finesse said he respected the gesture. He said he could not keep saying nobody was supporting him because YoungBoy did. He said he hoped talks were still going. They were still working on it. That word right there is the key word. Working. Not signed. Not done. Not finalized. Working. Which in industry talk usually means there is no deal in place yet, and there might never be one. Because the Prince family has made it clear on multiple platforms that no amount of money is going to easily get Finesse out of his deal. And in the rap business, when a powerful executive says no in public the way Jay Prince has, the chances of that decision flipping in private are slim. So what is actually happening right now is a slow and painful standoff. Finesse is on live almost every day. He is streaming. He is doing content. He is keeping his name out there because the music side of his career is locked behind a contract he cannot move freely under. He has been very open about what this feels like. And there was one moment on live where the mask came all the way off. I love all the Mob Ties street. It is time for me to get a new look, Junior. He said he had been with Mob Ties for 4 years and only dropped 2 projects. He said he was 33 years old. He said he needed to be free to chase the bigger money that was waiting for him. I am 33 years old. Let me go to somebody that is going to let me grow. He even offered to pay them out. He said if Mob Ties wanted 10 million, 15 million, 20 million off his exit, they could have it. He just wanted to walk. He just wanted to make his own money. He just wanted his career back. But the cry for help has not opened the door. Mob Ties still owns the music. Mob Ties still owns the rights. Mob Ties can still hand his paperwork to any other label through the assignment clause Finesse read aloud from ChatGPT. And Atlantic Records is still in the chain too, because Mob Ties is plugged into the major label system. So even if YoungBoy wanted to write a blank check, there are multiple desks that money would have to land on. And Jay Prince's desk has already said no. There is also another wrinkle. Finesse has been hinting that other heavy names are interested. He has mentioned 50 Cent in passing. He has talked about deals worth 10 to 20 million sitting on the table somewhere. But none of those names have done what YoungBoy did. None of them have publicly reached out. None of them have made the call that Finesse can point to. So for now, YoungBoy stands alone as the only artist with the receipts of actually trying to help. The title of this story sounds like a signing happened. The reality is that a conversation happened. A door was knocked on, and the door did not open. Finesse2Tymes is still a Mob Ties artist. NBA YoungBoy is still NBA YoungBoy. Jay Prince is still the wall. And the only thing that has really changed is that the internet now knows two men who used to be enemies have a quiet bridge between them. A bridge that nobody saw being built. A bridge that did not lead to a new label home, but did lead to a new kind of respect. That is the real story here. Not a signing. A peace offering. Not a contract change. A character moment. Not a takeover. A reach across the line that probably did more for hip-hop unity than any song these two men could have made together. Because in a culture where so many beefs end with somebody dead or somebody locked up, this one ended with a phone call. And that phone call ended with respect. Will Finesse ever get out of his Mob Ties deal? Hard to say. The contract is binding. The label is dug in. Jay Prince Sr. has spoken. Jay Prince Jr. has spoken. The promoters in Houston are aligned. The money on the table has been waved off. Finesse is going to have to either ride out the contract, find a legal angle his lawyers have been ducking, or strike some kind of buyout that the princes finally agree to. None of those paths are short. None of them are easy. None of them are guaranteed. What we do know is that the man feels trapped, the man feels tired, and the man feels grateful that out of every name in the rap game, NBA YoungBoy was the one who tried to throw him a line. That gratitude is not nothing in a business built on betrayal. That gratitude might be the most valuable currency Finesse has left. If you found this breakdown worth your time, hit like and subscribe so you do not miss the next one. And drop your thoughts in the comments because this story is far from over.